Welcome to HumanityWins.net. Please read the important disclaimer on your screen. All of the content provided is for entertainment purposes only. It should not be taken as medical or legal advice. Please contact your doctor or lawyer if you require such advice. Thank you. The show starts right now. Welcome to episode 41 from April the 20th of the year 2022. Today is a Wednesday, and I changed the format a little bit. Again, I appreciate all your comments and suggestions. So I got a comment that apparently, and I agree that I was using too much space for the title and that. So I tried to make it smaller so we have more space on your screen for images, information, and videos. So today's episode is a question: is anti-gravity used for UFO propulsion? So I went back and used a video from richplanet.net, which I already said. Richard D. Hall and Andrew Johnson really are very bright and very interesting people to talk about these subjects. So you see, I already said the brain is a muscle, so they have used that muscle much more than me, and that's why they are much brighter, and I'd rather present a video of them explaining you this, and I'll just give you my feelings at the end. So I got from one video 3 different pieces that I felt interesting. The video total is like 35 minutes, and it's all interesting, but I got the 3 major parts related to anti-gravity. So we're going to look at the part, I'm going to give you my feelings, then another interesting video about how anti-gravity could be related to energy created by spinning, and then finally the 2 last parts of the video from Rich Planet and Richard D. Hall and Andrew Johnson, and then finally what I think anti-gravity is. And you already know my feelings about UFOs, that they are basically terrestrial ships. I don't think the ship I'm showing you right now on the screen is necessary to go through galaxies. It's just against the laws of the universe. It's not really, the universe is very simple. Doesn't need complex machines to achieve its goals. So let's look at the first videos. All of the videos I'm going to present today is a very technical episode, but it's very interesting stuff. So you don't have to be an engineer to get the basic understanding of this, and I'll try at the end to be very layman terms, because again, my objective is not to do technical videos. My objective is to present this kind of information which is necessary to understand how the universe works towards how you work, because remember, you are God, you are a clone of God, you are the universe. So in a way, through a technical video, we can also understand something from ourselves. So let's look at the first video and listening.
Now, we are going to look at sightings, UFO sightings, a little bit later in the interview, Andrew. But we're going to talk about the science or the technology which may have been hidden initially. And we often hear the term anti-gravity in relation to secret propulsion systems. And it may be an incorrect use of language, I think. Some people would criticise right from word go, there's no such thing as anti-gravity. Now, gravity itself is something where there's debate over how much modern physics can explain it. And you've got the Electric Universe lobby who explain it in a slightly different way. I sometimes just use the word technology capable of creating the effects of acceleration on something and leave it at that. So it's not using Newtonian, it's not using, I think in your book you describe it as reactionless propulsion. Mm. So it's not using Newton's third law to get something to move. Mm. So do you want to just make a comment on that first?
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the first sort of two or three chapters of the book, certainly the first chapter, I try and go through some of those things about what gravity is and what, how you define it and how it's considered and how it's been looked at in mainstream physics, and looking at things like, as you say, Newton's law, mentioning relativity, and also mentioning things like loop quantum gravity and string theory, because those have all been put in mainstream physics or developed in mainstream physics to try and explain why gravity is like it is. The main point being that as meant to be one of the fundamental 4 forces of nature, and it's about, I always forget the figures, but it's trillions and trillions of times weaker than the electromagnetic force. That's always the thing that's brought forward. Mm. So that some of modern physics has tried to use that as a starting point for explaining what causes gravity. As regards anti-gravity, yes, I think it's a bit of a loose or lazy term, but it's something that I would define as simply being able to allow you to be moved normally in a vertical direction from the Earth without having any propellant mass to push you up there. Yeah. and as you say, it's reactionless. So you're not Newton's laws are disobeyed in terms of an anti-gravitic propulsion. And some people call it levity, because it's the opposite of gravity. So you might call it levity. I've also seen it called gravity control. But however you define the language, the term anti-gravity has often been applied to flying saucers and advanced craft. And so that's what I generally have called it too.
And another way you might describe it is field effect physics. So
Yes.
We're in a gravitational field now. That's why we're attracted to the Earth. If you can create an identical field which is operating in another direction, then it will oppose that and it will bring you up.
That's right.
So it's creating a similar effect to gravity, but in a different vector, if you like.
Yes. And certainly in the early part of the book, I look at some of the white world experiments that have been done, which appear to show that gravity is not quite what standard physics explains it as, and that's primarily through looking at the work of Eric Laithwaite, particularly in the 1970s, and Bruce De Palma.
Okay, so that's the first part of the video, and again, from one single video from Rich Planet, I extracted 3 parts, and as always, I include the link to that video and the video we're going to see in a second, which is a different one. So the video that, first of all, on the screen right now, you're looking at an image representing what is called an Adamski UFO. I know if you recall from the episode of Billy Mayer that I mentioned, Adamski, that he was a contactee of some kind of something in the 1940s and 50s. So you can see the difference right now, what I was trying to say. This is a ship apparently that was seen on the 1940s. This is, I don't think it's a real photograph. This is some kind of model or something, but it's very nice done, and it represents almost 100% what I've seen on Adamski photographs. You see, it looks very 1940s and 50s, and the images from Billy Mayer look a little bit more advanced. Maybe now you get my point, what I'm trying to say, that it was an elaborate hoax, okay? If you haven't seen the episode on Billy Mayer, it's episode 40, you might want to look into that after watching this episode. So right now, we're going to see a video from a gentleman that Andrew Johnson mentioned just at the end of the first part, Eric Laithwaite, and he actually makes a disk spin to, I believe, 2,500 RPMs, revolutions per minute, and then he shows how the disk is very heavy, so he's not barely able to pull it up without spinning. And then when the disk goes to 2,500 RPMs, he's able to just move around effortlessly. So I'm going to show you the video, and then I'm going to give you my comments. And I'm going to be short on each of the videos so we don't do a very long one, because at the end I have my points about gravity and anti-gravity. All right, let's watch the video. It's very interesting.
This is an experiment with a spinning wheel, a rather large wheel, 13 inches diameter, mounted in a ball bearing on a shaft 3 feet long. I'm going to hold it like this and swing it in a circle and lift it with one hand, but only when it's spinning. First of all, let me weigh it to show you just how heavy it is. As I talk, you'll see that lifting it is quite an effort. It weighs about 40 pounds, and I can't lift it any higher than that without a lot of strain. So now we'll spin it up to 2,500 revs a minute, at which point it becomes a live thing. Then I shall lift it 5 feet in 3 seconds by going round in a big circle. Whilst I'm doing it, I shall talk to you so that you shall tell from my voice that I'm not under any stress of any kind. Now in a minute I shall let go with my left hand, and holding this remote end of the shaft only, I shall lift the wheel through 5 feet, all on its own with no effort on my part. All I do is apparently just to steer it along a path that it's already decided it would like to go. Then there's the question of how you stop the wheel. that speed, that wheel has enough energy to throw itself 200 feet in the air. Did you notice that as it went round in a circle, there was no centrifugal force trying to pull my arm out sideways? Let's just do it once more. To save time, we've already spun it up. So here goes 40 pounds of wheel as light as a feather. This is not a conjuring trick. This is a fact of science. Watch it again carefully. A fact about a spinning wheel that so far everyone has missed.
Okay, so I hope you enjoy it, and I include images on UFOs all throughout this episode. I didn't want to include other because, you know, this is an episode about UFO, and I'm going to give you my opinions at the end. I just want to comment, did you see the gentleman mentioning a couple of times there's no centrifugal force? So there's no pull to the sides. That's Newtonian. That's based on Newtonian physics. No, this is not a Newtonian thing. I'm going to tell you at the end of the episode that I feel this electromagnetic thing. Going through the spinning created static electromagnetic energy that nullifies gravity. It's not related to the forces that Newton says, which are not bad. They govern the air, and they actually are the basis of most of the technology, transportation technology that you have right now, including your car. If you go into an airplane, it's Newtonian physics. If you go on a train, it's Newtonian physics. So most of the energy creation and transportation that you use right now are based on Newton's findings. So I'm not saying he's bad. It's just very primitive. And we are linear beings. We tend to look for linear explanations of things. We don't go into multiple dimensions. The universe, first of all, Richard D. Hall said, the electric universe lobby. It's not a lobby, come on. Richard. I'm sorry to say the universe is electrical. It's based on electricity, not on chemistry, like we want to do it here on Earth. Chemistry is more controllable than electricity. And again, electricity is abundant, it's free, it's everywhere. The thing is, these type of technologies are covered up because they will lead to free energy, free Tesla energy. He was a discoverer on planet Earth of this energy, the energy based on the reverberation of love, and that will change everything on Earth because we'll go from the scarcity to abundance paradigm, and suddenly energy will be like air. So if energy is like air, everything else needs to be like air, and all the hierarchies and everything crumbles. Do you see? That's why there's so much resistance to these kind of things. But I'm going to give you my feelings at the end, and I don't want to do a super long episode. So let's look at another part of the video where they go through the work of this gentleman and another gentleman by the last name of Palma, that they did similar episodes having strange energies that don't respect the laws of Newton, of Newtonian physics. All right? Let's look at it. Very interesting stuff.
You know, both those people are no longer with us. And I've got a few examples of some of their experiments that they did with gyroscopes and objects which were spinning at high speed, sort of faster than 5,000 revolutions per minute. And basically the conclusion from that is that once you get objects of a sufficient mass that are spinning at high speed, something else comes into play. And it's like this property of inertia, for example. It's quite a mysterious thing, inertia. And both Eric Laithwaite and Bruce De Palma investigated this quite extensively. And one of the simple experiments that De Palma did was that he got a rotating ball, like a ball bearing, and he would fire it up into the air, and he did this in front of a stroboscopic light, so you can tell how quickly it travelled. And when you do this, it follows a parabolic path. And this is, I think you do this experiment in normal physics lessons sometimes, and it's the basis for ballistics. If you get this parabola, and then you work out from the angle of how you project it, etc. So then what De Palma did was he would repeat the same experiment, but he'd spin the ball up to like 5,000, 10,000 RPM before he fired it. And so he just got this ball spinning, but yet the trajectory is different. And there's no reason for it to be different just because it's spinning.
Would this be in a vacuum?
Yeah, I think he did do it in a vacuum, but even with he took the air effects into account.
Right.
But I think he did perform this in a vacuum, and again he found that the trajectory was changed. So, Newtonian physics can't really say why that would happen. It should follow exactly the same path.
Yes. All right.
Okay, so I could comment on that a lot, but I'm going to comment on the last slide. So yes, it is another type of experiment that he used a spinning ball, and the spinning ball didn't behave like a static ball. So as Andrew Johnson well says, that shouldn't be the case according to Newton. So there's something going on there. Again, I could give you some of the things I'm going to talk about on the last slide, but let's look at the last part of the video from Rich Planet, because this is very interesting. They get Nikola Tesla, and how, remember, Nikola Tesla was very attached to electromagnetics, the energy of the universe. I mean, he knew he had discovered something he didn't understand, and the potential was enormous. So all this is also related to anti-gravity, of course, and they make an explanation how Tesla, whenever he did experiments, he felt a force, of course. Yes, the force from the electromagnetic. So this same force could be used to nullify gravity, okay? Actually, that's what happens, okay? I'm giving you an advance of what I'm going to talk about. So let's look at the video, and finally, I'm going to give you my feelings about this whole thing.
Understanding a link between gravity and electromagnetics, that the two are linked, and I think mainstream scientists some of them will agree with that. And there's always this argument over which one causes the other. I get emails on this quite regular. People say, no, you don't create gravity using electrogravitics. Using electromagnetics. It's the other way around. Gravity is what electricity and magnetism are byproducts of gravity. And you get into this sort of, well, surely they're just both part of the same phenomenon.
Yeah, and I mean, this is where some of the electric universe stuff ties into it a little bit. But again, if you go through the early parts of the book, you'll find more information about that side of things, and experiments have actually been done in the white world, never mind the black world. People like Ning Li and Podkletnov, I could put quite a bit in about Podkletnov.
Well, let's just go back to the start of that then, because Thomas Townsend Brown, was there anyone before him? I mean, obviously you've got things like Edward Leeds Scanlon, and there's debate over that, but anything before Thomas?
Yeah, I mean, if we do it sort of in chronological order, I think one of the earliest things you come across is some of the experiments that Tesla did. Now, Tesla is not normally linked to anti-gravity technology, except, you get these websites saying, oh, the Nazis developed flying saucers using Tesla's effects and blah, 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 and it's all very vague. But if you look at Tesla's notes, and in fact, I cite an experiment done by Eric Dollard, which he did in the 1980s. He reproduced some of Tesla's circuits and some of his experiments. And in one particular one, he's got like a conducting foil, which is hanging down from like a stand, and it's next to this light bulb. But this light bulb is being operated with a Tesla spark gap circuit, as far as I'm aware. And then when he switches it a certain way, this sort of foil it moves away from the bulb, and it's like a force is generated. And Tesla actually reported this in some of his experiments, in his experimental notes, that when he switched his equipment on, generating an electrical field or a giant Tesla coil or whatever, he would often get this effect of being slightly pushed. There's some force against him. There's a mechanical force. So that was kind of an early reference to there being some link between electrical experiments and an experienced force well, maybe not gravity, because it wasn't necessarily in a vertical direction, and we think of gravity normally acting in a vertical direction, certainly here.
Okay, so finally we made it that I'm gonna tell you my feelings. And I wanna clarify, none of the things you're seeing in the screen right now, the text, comes from my brain, because I've used my brain a little bit. I've read a lot of books, I've seen a lot of videos, I spoke to a lot of people, but still, you have to understand, Richard D. Hall and Andrew Johnson and people similar to him, like Harold Kraus-Vela and others, they have dedicated their life to using their brain. So they are at least 100, if not 1,000, or even more brighter, smarter, if you want to call it, than me. So it will be a disservice for me to try to take the game to their level and try to explain this through my brain. I'd rather just send you to their video, and that will be it. I'm giving you my feelings. I don't know where this stuff comes from. Actually, an episode that I'm speaking, I think 85% of the stuff I'm speaking doesn't go through my brain. It's just something inside me that is coming, so maybe there's something there. I'm probably wrong, yes. I don't care if I'm wrong. Truly, I don't care if I'm wrong. And I hope you find it interesting. Maybe it's a product of my imagination, of my mind, or maybe there's something there. Okay? So, without further ado, my feelings on gravity and anti-gravity. And I'm going to go ahead before I forget, that they recommend the reading is Anti-Gravity Propulsion by James and Lance Morkan. You can find it on the usual places online. And I will suggest a book from Andrew Johnson next time, because I'm doing a disservice to Andrew Johnson, because he has great books, and I have a couple of his books, and he's a great writer. Very interesting stuff. And always, if you can, please get the paper thing. Okay? I don't know why just reading things through a screen is not the same. So first of all, we live in an electric universe. I'm sorry, I cannot see it other way. We live in an electric universe, period. 100% sure. That resonates with me 1,000%. I mean, we are not on a chemical universe. We live in an electric universe, so the main governing energy is electromagnetic. So I want to start with that. Again, my feeling, guys, this is certainly quite possibly 99.99999% wrong, but these are my feelings. Who knows where they are coming from? Gravity is a reaction to electromagnetic forces among matter in the universe. So of course there is an electromagnetic pull among matter, and matter can be a planet, by the way. It can be a whole planet, and for example the Earth, what you see here, we are in the surface, but when you go below surface, it's basically a lot of matter compacted, you see, and a lot of matter that transmit electricity. So thus, there's where the gravity on Earth comes from, in my opinion, in my feeling. The more dense and electrically conducive a piece of matter is, for example, planet Earth, the more gravity pull it creates. That's why the moon is very strange. The moon sends out gravity appearing it's hollow, or it's very little dense. Again, very strange. I already spoke about the moon in an episode, and you might want to go and look into that. And I want you, when I think about this, think of magnets. So, you know, there's a toy magnet, and it has some pull, very basic pull. And you have industrial magnets, which actually have induced electricity into them, and they can get a car, for example, in a car salvage things where they compact the cars and they recycle them into steel or whatever. They actually can get a car and get it into some place and, you know, throw it around like it was nothing. And a car, at least, it's 1 ton, 1,000 kilos, and it's probably more. A bigger car is like 2 tons. So a magnet is able to do that. Again, it depends how dense and electrically conducive a piece of matter is. The gravity that creates is different. So a small planet will create a small gravity pull. And not necessarily, actually. For example, going back to Nibiru, they say Nibiru has a moon that is very small, 100 kilometers in diameter, something like that. I didn't speak about that on the Nibiru episode, by the way. But it's very compacted, it's very dense and full of iron. So it has a very high gravity because of the electricity. Again, these are my feelings. Gravity is only relevant inside planets and among planets. But the among planets part is, unless you have a planet like Nibiru that doesn't kind of behave through the laws of non-interference and balance, among planets there is no problem. Because you see, the universe is so perfect that it's space planets with a sufficient distance, so gravity among them are not an issue. But inside planets, yes, it is an issue. I mean, for example, that's why we can walk on the Earth and we don't fly, because there's a gravity. And our body has, which is an electrical body, by the way, not a chemical body, has the pull from inside the core of the Earth, and that's why you walk on the Earth. If there was lesser pull, you will kind of jump through the Earth. If there was close to non-pull, you will fly to the Earth. So that's gravity. There's this from Newton: weight equals mass times gravity. You probably saw this equation in a high school, or even, you know, junior high school or elementary school. And it's just the weight part is just as F, which is force, equals ma, which means mass, and the constant of gravity, which is referenced as a. So forget about that for a second. But the thing is, if gravity was 0, then the weight is irrelevant. It will become 0. So you will still have the same mass as you have right now, but your weight will be 0. Imagine that for everyone concerned about their weight and stuff like that. Your weight is only relevant because of gravity, by the way. So if gravity was 0, you go to a place that gravity is 0, you don't have any weight. Anti-gravity is the process of nullifying the pull of gravity and converting weight to 0 by leaving mass intact. Very important. You don't destroy mass. Mass is indestructible. It's matter. Remember, matter cannot be disrupted, it just changes. So yes, weight can be zero, of course, and weight is actually zero when you travel through the universe. That's why it's so easy to traverse it. And remember, you can go at speeds higher than speed of light, and actually unlimited in a way. You can traverse the universe in a blink of a second. The universe is perfect and it's simple. God created a very simple universe. You just have to respect very simple laws. Basically, no cheating allowed. No cheating allowed. Just put in the work. That's the most important advice I can give you. No cheating. Never cheat. And respect others. And love others. And understand others. And just be a beacon of love and guidance. Anti-gravity can be achieved both by sufficient electromagnetic generation. Yes. Remember, gravity is all electromagnetic, nothing related to Newton. I'm sorry to say that, I know I'm gonna sound like, how is this guy questioning Newton, one of the better known scientists on the history of Earth, but he understands the physical part of gravity. He understands the force part of gravity. Remember, weight equals mass times gravity, so he understood weight, he understood the F part, force. That's perfect, he was extremely bright, okay. But if you create sufficient electromagnetic generation on the opposite, you will nullify gravity and you can levitate, as Andrew Johnson was saying. That's one way. So going back to UFOs, again, I don't think benevolent civilizations need UFOs to traverse the universe. Maybe they need them once they're inside the planet, maybe, and it's a big maybe. I think most UFOs you see on videos and pictures are terrestrial artifacts trying to exploit the use of anti-gravity. Maybe they kind of allow us to toy with these things because they know we're not going to get anywhere. They know we're not going to leave Earth on a UFO and traverse the universe on that ships, okay? Maybe. But also I want to mention, most importantly, yes, electromagnetic generation could be many ways, through magnets, through some sort of maybe free energy, I hope so, way, they can nullify gravity very easily. Because again, gravity is electromagnetic generation of one way. So if you generate sufficient or equal electromagnetic generation on the other way, you nullify gravity and you levitate. But also from the video that the spinning wheel was accelerated to 2,500 RPMs, 2,500 RPMs, what I think happens there is by the act of concentric spinning, it creates an electromagnetic energy field, static, because you see as the wheel is spinning, same as you, for example, if you get something to rub into a balloon and then you are able to pick up little pieces of hair or something very, very basic with very little weight, but it's a static energy. That's known in mainstream science as static energy. So the wheel going 2,500 RPMs is able to create sufficient static energy to make the wheel itself nullify the power of electromagnetic gravity. So I'm going to read it again. By the act of concentric spinning, which creates an electromagnetic energy field through static that nullifies gravity partially or totally. In this case, it was partially on the video because he still had to put a little force to actually get that thing on the air. If it was total, the thing would have floated on its own without any help from the gentleman in the video. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed this one. It was highly technical, and we're going to the last part of the video. It's my favorite part. We talk about you. I'm sorry for subscribers. If you want to look at it, you decide. I hope you do. And definitely, if it's the first video you watch on Change is Near, please stay for this part of the video. It's only 3 minutes and 40 seconds, and it's the best advice I can give to you. All right, thank you very much for watching, and please stay for the last part of the video. We want you on the show. Send me an email to hey@humanityways.net to schedule an interview. Help me out by making the show more interesting, fun, and knowledgeable by having you on and giving our viewers the opportunity to learn from you. Thank you for making it to this part of the video. This is my favorite part. This is where I suggest to you that you discover yourself. You are not what you have been groomed to believe. You are this incredible being without limits that has eternal life, amazing strength, infinite wisdom, and a big, beautiful heart. All your limits are always self-imposed. Your best version in this reality is inside you. Your only mission on this life is to become a beacon of love and guidance. This version is ready to be discovered today. How do you discover yourself? The discovery process is a personal one. No one can do it for you. Dedicate 5 minutes a day to talk to yourself and the universe. Request to be connected and ask, who am I? Where do I come from? You will start getting signs, breadcrumbs and signals. You will notice how your notions about those realities start disappearing. No more hierarchies, no more competition, no more complaining, no more depending on others. Discovering yourself equals to breaking your matrix. Your self-imposed limits will fall and you will be ready to serve humanity and help break this spell and deception on us. But you must be patient to allow others to wake up at their time through their own free will. That will be really soon, you will see, and that will start a new world. As you work towards your best version, you will notice how all emotions don't serve you anymore. Hate, fear, rage, pride, loss, envy, violence, justice, true violence, judgment of others, and other emotions will disappear from your mind and heart. You will understand those emotions serve only the evildoers and are not you. Please try to be understanding of others that don't think or feel like you. Everyone has a process. No one is right or wrong. We're all just different. Don't be concerned about being right, ever. Don't allow pride preventing you from patching things up with family and friends. It is very important you enjoy this life with your loved ones. Put in the work to patch things up and leave it to others to decide. Please relax and enjoy life. When everyone breaks their own matrix, humanity through our community consciousness will break the final spell. The new world will start and everything will gradually fall. Governments, hierarchies, and the medical and financial system will go from scarcity to abundance for all. Thank you very much for watching. Please share this episode. If you have any comments or suggestions, please use the comment section below. For private questions, conversations, and if you would like to appear on the show, please email me at hey@humanitywins.net. Please be sure to check out our friends from Waking the Future and their awaken-attire.com shop. They gave me my first opportunity to speak about this and I will be forever grateful. Link to their channel and shop on the show notes. Thank you again. Please don't forget to visit our website www.humanitywins.net. By giving me your time, you honor me. Have a very, very, very nice day.